One thing I'll note, and I think you touched on this a little bit, Courtney. It's short trips. So we know that 50% of trips in the United States that everybody's taking, like all trips, are 3 miles or less. So there's sort of let that sink in for a second.
It's amazing. Yeah, say it again. Say it
I
again.
mean, so yeah, so like 50% of all trips are 3 miles or less. So that's every trip we do. Okay. And that's not as many are being done by bike as we'd like, but it's a very bikeable distance. So a 15-minute bike ride. So half of the trips that we all do could be done by bike if we can make it feel safe, for it to be safe, to feel safe, and be accessible for all people, to make some of those trips by bike. During Bike Month, we often focus on bike to work. And so Bike to Work Day, that's next, Bike to Work Week is next week. It's the third week of May. Bike to Work Day, National Bike to Work Day, is the third Friday in May. That's next Friday. We've tried to take a little bit of the focus off of biking to work because it is the longest trip on average that people have to do. And so usually for most Americans, it's like a 10 or 11 miles is your trip to work. Now, we want you to ride your bike to work. We want employers to make it easy for you to do it. We want city leaders like Cheryl to keep doing their work so that it makes it possible for you to do that by bike. But I think it's also important for us as bike advocates and educators and people working on this to not give people too much. And like, let's focus on biking there, wherever that there is for you. So like if during Bike Month, I encourage you to share those sort of short trips by bike, and of course tag FBA and the Bike League if you want. We're at a Bike League, but yeah, it's a time of celebration.
You make a great point, Bill. And in a past life, I used to promote really different modes to get to work. And what I really found when you're talking to folks about biking or talking about people about getting to work, that's like the most stressful trip of someone's day. If you woke up in a household like mine where mom's hitting the snooze button 3 times, and to expect somebody to be able to change that trip. And so I started to adjust my approach and say, okay, let's look at baby steps. What are those leapfrog trips, the short ones to the park, to the grocery store, to the kids' friends around the block? And when you start breaking it down that way, it suddenly seems so much more feasible than to ask somebody to go day one, head out on your bike for 10 miles in Florida, in particular. So
right, sure, yeah, you don't want to, yeah, absolutely. That's and I think it's great that you have been thinking of that, and I think it's important to not shame people into this stuff. We talk about one of the best places in the world to ride a bike, the Netherlands. If you look at the Netherlands trip distances by bike, you'll find that the percentage of people riding their bike drops off pretty significantly after about 5 miles, like when you're doing the bike to work trip. So it's connecting to transit. It's connecting, to that other mode that helps extend our trips if we're doing that bike to work trip. Now, I'm going to still bike to work. Yesterday, I'm working from home, but I love my ride to the office, and I think many people do who are probably in your audience. But as you say, that's not. I don't think you lead with that necessarily when you're trying to get people to bike.
It's tricky, and it's the data. It's what is measured matters, and I think a lot of the kind of tie-in there is because we're looking at that commuting data with the American Community Survey. So Bill, thank you for that kind of national viewpoint, and I love that you are a Florida native. I too, representing Daytona Beach, Florida, born and raised. So
hey, Halifax Hospital, that's where I was born.
Me too.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, we learn something every day. So